Greetings everyone, I'm Record the Second, and welcome to a video about one of the key new features in the upcoming update for mob tweaks version 1.1, the shrinkflation and variation update. This update adds a bunch of baby mobs, most notably the ones on the thumbnail and the title of the video, and I wanted to explain why I added them in the first place. Because I imagine a lot of you thinking, wow, baby creepers sounds like the worst idea possible. But trust me, it's actually pretty good. I'll explain why. But first, if you're not familiar with mob tweaks, I need to explain that baby mobs are actually much weaker than the adults, at least when it comes to these kinds of mobs. It's not all the mobs, but it's definitely the hostile ones that you will definitely see a big difference with. So, because the babies are smaller and harder to hit, and they are really fast, I nerfed them quite a bit. They have way less health and attack damage. Zombies, husks, drowned, piglins, hoglins, you name it, basically almost any hostile mob that has a baby variant has that baby variant nerfed quite a bit. Might be even too much actually, but I do think it's a good feature for balancing, and so I am applying the same concept to the baby versions of these other mobs. So let's get a baby creeper here. It's 5% of the... oh, there it is. And let's just see one creeper, the adult version, and how it compares to the baby. So, the baby, obviously, as you might be able to guess, is faster, but it does have way less health, and it does less damage. Okay, so let me just compare how fast these are. And as you can see, the baby is way quicker. It's really cute, especially with this running animations. I don't know how it looks in vanilla, because I'm playing with fresh animations, but this is really funny. And as you can see, it's much better at catching up to me, and it does also have a shorter fuse, so it'll blow up faster than the adult counterpart. But it's going to be much less destructive to your builds. I don't have mob griefing, so I can't really show, but there is a noticeable difference. Now let's talk about baby phantoms. Baby phantoms aren't exactly as straightforward as you might assume. They're actually the current version of the phantom. As you can see, this phantom just got really big, and that's actually the new adult phantoms. So they have the same health, but they are much stronger, which I think addresses a very common criticism of the phantoms, which is that they're not an actual challenge to fight, they're just kind of a nuisance. So that's fixed for this version. So most phantoms will be this adult version, and they're going to be much bigger, much easier to hit, by the way, than before. So that addresses another issue with fighting phantoms that people have, but it is balanced because they're much stronger than they used to be. Let's now get a baby phantom to spawn. All right, so we got a baby phantom right here, and oh god, what did I do? This might have been a terrible mistake. Alright, don't pay attention to all the drops. We have a baby phantom here, which is the regular size, and we have the adult phantoms, which are much larger. And let's compare how much damage each of them does. Like that, and as you can see, quite the difference. And it died really quickly. So that's the change now, is that most phantoms are going to be way easier to hit because of the larger hitbox, but also they're going to do more damage. So that's going to be making the fights with them much more exciting, much more of a threat than before. And another thing I forgot to mention is that I have not introduced the sounds yet, but all the babies will have their own sounds. And the difference here is that baby phantoms will inherit the original phantom sounds. As you might know, that's another very common complaint, is that they make really annoying sounds. So now the adult phantoms will have lower pitch sounds, and that'll be most of the phantoms. So I think I fixed a lot of issues with the phantoms, at least common complaints from the community. Oh, and also the adults now drop bones, but that's something I'm going to be talking about more in another video about this update. Now let's get to the Ghast, and I guess the Nether makes more sense, right? So we all know and quote-unquote love the Ghast, and I've decided to add a baby version of the Ghast, which I know there is a baby Ghast in Minecraft Dungeons, which looks totally different from this, but you know, I'm working with what I got here. And I actually think these add quite a bit to the game, even though they're kind of rare. They're only like 10% of the Ghast population, but they do something pretty cool that's very different from adult Ghasts. So they don't even have 3 hearts. It's kind of pathetic, honestly, but that's just because the actual adult Ghasts are also quite weak. But anyways, as you can see, the difference here is that instead of shooting the big fireballs that cause explosions, the baby Ghasts will shoot the same fireballs that you will see from the blaze. It scales with the size of the Ghast, and it does make the fireball itself different. So not only does it not explode, it also can be blocked with a shield, and instead of just giving you damage, it actually does set you on fire. So there is a meaningful difference between the types of fireballs. And so even though you cannot deflect their fireballs back at them, you can block them with a shield, which I think arguably is even easier. Let me show you some of the other mobs I added that I didn't mention before, and these include a lot of the skeleton mobs and also spiders. Alright, so since we are in the nether, I'll start with the wither skeleton. I like these a lot. They kind of make me think of angsty teens, because when downsized, since the wither skeleton is bigger than regular skeletons, it kind of looks like a teenager more than a baby. We got one. And this one is interesting because it does have a stick instead of the sword, so it hits way less. But it still gives you the wither effect, so you need to watch out. What adds to this experience with the fortress is that since they are much shorter than the wither skeletons, you cannot just use the same defense of building across the corridors. These will still get you. So they add a little bit more to the fortress. Still quite weak though, as you can see. They will die pretty much from one hit from any basic weapon. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention baby skeleton variants drop bone meal instead of bones. I just think that's a cute little detail. And I guess it makes sense now to talk about the skeleton variants. So what makes the baby versions of skeletons much different is that they don't use bows, they only use melee attacks, which is something that skeletons can do, but they only do it when it's a wither skeleton. As you can see, that one died pretty quickly because I have really good thorns. And they also do inherit the weaknesses of the adults, meaning they have less health than an average skeleton baby. So even by other baby standards, these are really weak. They are holding a tipped arrow of poison, which is pretty cute. Oh my god, you are not invited to this party, dude. And yeah, as you can see, they're kind of cute. Now baby strays, as you can imagine, also hold tipped arrows. They also cannot attack you with a range attack. Why is that guy still shooting at me, dude? Go! And last but not least, regular skeletons also have a baby type. And don't pay attention to the textures, they're just from a resource pack I'm using. It's not actually from mob tweaks. These ones will also basically do the same thing. So now let's talk about baby spiders, which is the last edition here. And slight warning for arachnophobia, I guess, but here they are. They're really tiny compared to the big spiders, and they have like 3 health points, so they're extremely easy to kill. And they do not drop strength, so you need to kill adults to get strength. They're super fast, but they are really tiny, so they will almost always have to climb the block instead of being able to just go upward, which is something I added to adult spiders, by the way. If you can see here, it might be hard to tell, but they're, instead of climbing the block like they always do, they just walk over it. So that's a little buff I introduced to the spiders because it makes sense. It does distinguish them from babies a lot more. But they can spawn like this naturally. Also, baby spiders can just find an adult spider and climb on its back, which I think is a pretty cool visual. They're not much of a threat at all, but they do provide a different experience. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on with this update. That's why it's the shrinkflation and variation update. Shrinkflation is because I'm adding a lot of baby mobs, which replace a portion of the adult mobs. And there's also a lot of other features about variation that I'm going to show in later videos. They are kind of fun. It's actually one of the few mobs that can catch up to me. And I don't know, I just think it's a very fun experience to run into all of these baby mobs. And even if they're not very common, you will still run into them when you play the game. I think it adds a lot to the world of Minecraft to have all of these different types of mobs with their baby variants and seeing them interact, and also just seeing how it changes your survival experience and other details like that. I'm a big fan of how this update has been turning out. It's almost done. I don't have the baby sounds done yet. That's something that's going to be a bit more difficult to implement. I also haven't updated this to 1.21.5 yet, and that's going to have to be in this update because of the new farm animal variants that we're adding, which I'm going to showcase in a later video, like I said before. And there are a lot of other really cool, exciting features that I cannot wait to share with you guys. So don't forget to smash subscribe, ring my bell, and as always, stay